Yeah, it's fine with,
Okay, is that okay, Rex?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, we'll send this to Carla after.
I'm glad to hear that because it's been recording for the last 15 seconds. So
That's good. Thank you so much for that. What it's going to take, in my opinion, and I'll just talk about this for a minute and then, or a few minutes, and we will then move towards some action planning. The reality, as I understand it, is it's going to take a major effort to rekindle the vitality of our program. There are some good things in place. We have a new president, we have a new committee, and we have a paid staff person. So we now have some people in place, which has not totally been the case for the last couple of years. But it's still going to be up to us to make it work. Quickly but important, our history is, since 2010, we've been looking for new ways to deliver our program and some new components of the program to make it more attractive and more palatable to our students. And we've been working on that for a few years, since 2010. And if we, among ourselves, are very candid about it, it's not working like we want it to. We're trying to turn it around, but in some ways, our organization is slipping backward. And I say this not only with a lot of love, but also a lot of understanding. The world has just changed dramatically over the last 20 years, and even since 2010, we've seen some very, very major changes. The fall conference is an example of that. Low attendance, lowest we've ever had. Member enthusiasm, I don't know how to measure it, but I'm not running across the enthusiasm that I'd like to find. And the likely reasons, as I understand it, are not that there's somebody to blame or people to blame, or there's plenty of blame to go all around. That's not my goal. But I think reality is what we need to understand, and that is everyone in our line of work is busier than they've ever been. All the conference centers that I know, the people who work there are working longer and harder with less staff, and everybody is just loaded. Most of our organizations, our centers, are faith-based, and for a large number of them, their parent organization is working even harder than the folks in the conference center to survive. I've worked for the Episcopalians for the last 6 years, and the number of Episcopal churches that have closed over the last couple of years have been about one a week. And so while not all those people have left the church, some of them have gone to other churches, basically membership is declining there. And there are not a lot of positive stories from anywhere. And the concern I have about that is how we continue to make what contribution we can to conference center education. Camps, that's another story. Camps are really thriving and growing, but adult conference centers are moving downward. Everyone's really busy. The officers and leaders of our organization must be drafted. Yeah, I've been around long enough that I can remember when it was a high honor and highly competitive to get officer status in IACA. The last few years, our officers and leaders had to be drafted. Chuck had to serve an additional year-long term, and finally, Ruben was willing to take the presidency. Our communication and publicity needs to be reworked. And I don't know this. This is the piece that I don't totally understand, and I may be wrong. I'd like to be. But I think our image is just not as strong as it once was. I think we're coming off a time when there was a real void in leadership. Chuck basically ran out of steam, and some of the other leadership did too. And the the motivation to keep things going was not as strong as it should be. I played a negative role in that. I was doing one of the most difficult turnarounds I've ever done. I didn't have much time to put into it. We're all a volunteer organization, and suddenly our staff person, we lost her because Ruben and Nicole went to Christ the King up in New York. It's the job of a lifetime for both of them, but that's taken her away from being our staff person. As I say, we've got some new things now. We have a new president, we have a staff person, and we have us. The other thing that needs to be very much part of the discussion is our environment's changed. We have a mix of middle management people with a few executive directors. That's the reverse of how it was 5 or 6 years ago. And we have within our denominations and our parent bodies a real changed value of continuing education, because when times get tough, one of the first things that gets dropped is continuing ed. So bottom line is, we may be able to turn it around, but this is not the easiest task we've taken on. I've put together what I truly believe is a blue ribbon committee. And I think the folks that are here tonight, with the exception of Carla, are folks that can make this happen. But having painted a kind of bleak picture, I want to know what you think. And then I'll talk about some of the things we can work on. But do we have a real chance to regain our position as the premier provider of education for conference centers? Or is that maybe something that needs consideration? I'd like to know what you think.
Well, I'll jump right in there, Charles. I think you are right on the mark with everything you've said. And we've all been around long enough to understand and agree with what you're saying in terms of our history and what you're saying about officers and now having to draft those people. It's a big task in front of us, but I would like to think that we can, working together, make a change and move us back going forward. So I'm all in.
Sounds so good to me, because I think you're one of the strong folks that can make it happen. How about you, Rex?
Well, I tend to agree with Ann. Ann, geez. Your reflection on what's happened in the industry is correct. You know, I even came back from our own camp conference, and what we saw there in our association was we saw more second staff people than we saw executives.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what that's all about, except I know that a lot of the executives are feeling pulled about 4 different ways. And there are some major associations out there that all of them relate to, and they're having to make choices. So that I talked to 3 people about IACA, and it may happen every 3 years that they get to a conference, but they can't go every year to an IACA conference. Just like they can't go to an ACA conference every year or a CCCA conference every year. So they're having to choose and pick, whereas they don't have one particular home for their professional growth. It's going to be a variety of different things. But, you know, I agreed to do this because I feel the value and the strength of the education program that we've offered. And I think we can reclaim some of it, but it's going to look different.
Yeah.
I'm sure open to whatever we can do that's different. I would like to see that happen. How about you, Jess?
I am, Charles, you and I have talked about this a lot, and we've had times when we were really high in the organization and times when we were ready to throw in the towel over the years. Even IACA, even when it was in what you might call the glory days, was never a large organization. You know, we always were considered a small organization, and when you're a small organization, I think you're almost always walking on the edge. But I have felt and still feel it's a needed organization for our small profession out there. There's not loads of us out there, so we're going to be a small organization, but somebody has to provide training and best practice for our organization, for our field. So I feel there's a place for IACA. What concerns me is and you said this, we have meetings like this, or we go to the conference and we all get fired up, but then we go back to our offices and we're so piled up with stuff that sometimes we don't get things done in a timely fashion like we said we would when we were together. And I'm one of the offenders of that. But I'm with Ann and Rex. I think we can do this, and I think IACA is needed. And as long as I'm around and in the industry, I want to be a part of that.
Well, I'd like to do it too, and I'm certainly on board. I am ready to put the amount of energy that I can put into it. I got to tell you, it's not a ditch I want to spend much time in by myself. And
No.
Except, it's been fits and starts over the years. And as I say, I'm not in a blaming mood, but there's not been much help over the last few years. And we do exactly what Jess says. We get things going when we're together, and then we fall apart. What I've tried to do with this new committee is put the right people together and then to use the technology that's available to us. And I'm sure we're going to improve. Whatever went wrong tonight, I probably screwed up. I'm not our best technician. And I set this meeting up, and apparently I set it up wrong. But anyway, thanks, Jess, for pulling us out of the fire, because things weren't going very well there for a little while. I'm really willing to do this. I don't see this committee ever meeting face-to-face except at the annual conference. I've pretty much programmed it. One of the immediate feedbacks I got from our new board president was, great Scott, you put together a committee that's larger than the board. We can't afford that. Well, we can afford it if we do it this way, because our meetings can happen this way. I'm not excited about meeting in the evenings. I'd much rather meet very early in the morning, but in the polls we've done, it looks like this is the right time to meet. So given all that, I suggest we go forward. The place to look, and can I screen share it now?
Yes, you can. Yep. Down the bottom of the screen there.
Okay, here we go. Now I have 3 monitors, but if I click on the one I want to use, which is this one, and say share screen, you guys should see the IACA webpage. Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Okay, if we look down that, and Ann, if you'll just scroll along with us.
Yep.
There's work to do here. We've gotten a lot done, and thanks to Will. I mean, he's a paid person, and he's doing what we're paying him to do, but he's also really put some effort into this, because he's had to learn as he went along also. The super seminar was not on the first page until yesterday. And this is our next major thrust. We're about 6 weeks behind already on our publicity for this. We're trying to get to registration before the December 15 deadline, which of course now is 16 days away, to save some money for this. The thing that I've asked Will to do is also to get into the text here somewhere something that leads folks to the description of the program, not just the registration, but the description of the program. I think he'll have that up probably by tomorrow. Then I don't, it's not our matter to deal with, but when we don't have a new greeting from our president, I'm gonna ask Ruben to address that, but I'm really not in a position to do anything except ask. Coffee break, we want to keep on the front page because it's the best program we have. And then it concerns me as far as our image is concerned. We have the CCCP recertification, but if you click on this, you don't get much. Super Seminar will take you, I think, I'm going to try it right now, will take you to this page, which is a good presentation of Super Seminar. The registration's pretty good, and hopefully we're going to start to do that. Now, what we need is to be able to get our scholarship notes out, and if people talk to any of us, one of the things we should say when they say I can't afford it is to remind them we do have several $1,000s in scholarship money that we can provide, and we can pay up to half the cost of the program. Hopefully that's enough to get a few folks going. So if you look at the certification program itself, that's where I think we've got to get some traction pretty quickly. And let's quickly review that. The requirements for certification: 3 years experience, bachelor's, program registration fee, and then here's the fly that may or may not be in the ointment. But let me talk to you about that for a minute. We made the change shortly after 2010 to go to this points-based system. The whole thing hinges on, can our mentors evaluate the needs of our students and guide them to do the right things so that at the time they reach certification, they will have a full rounded background in our field. That sounds really good to me, just so far as a professional educator is concerned. But my concern is that at the last capstone, at this last meeting, it was clear to me that really none of our candidates that we certified had a full rounded experience so far as learning the body of knowledge that IACA teaches. They had picked and chosen those things and that they completed and gotten their 100 points. Some of their mentors had been much stronger than others, and some of the students simply have not known where to go. I have a big question in my mind about that. I'm not at all ready to just go back to the old IACA certification program with KCWs and so on. I'd be the first to say that was worn out. But I hope we don't toss out our body of knowledge with a whole new program that basically was set up in order to reduce the intensity of the program and to give folks a chance to study in other areas. And then finally, if you look at the complete description of the program, and I won't bore you with that because you know that as well as I do, but the things that are necessary for us to really make this work are back before us, and I'm totally ready, if you are, to say we need to make some changes in order to get the program out there. And I think we're so dependent upon Ann and Rex and the other folks on the committee, and Jess as you can, to be able to put that forward to folks for the learning process. Otherwise, over the last few years, we've watered the program down so much that we're really not totally teaching our body of knowledge. Does that make sense? Talk to me. Is that registering for you guys?
Oh,
Charles,
absolutely.
Yeah. As I read through this couple of pages here, it was very evident to me that we've put our emphasis on the annual meeting or the conference and not upon the education.
Yeah.
We've taken the strength of the education out of it. We've made other things optional, which I think is good. And maybe we need to tone those down a little bit and put a little more energy in some of the core focus points, like we've done for the pre-conference workshops.
Well, you guys are mentors and teachers. I'm interested to hear that. Talk to us, Ann. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, go ahead. I'm just listening.
Well, please, you were starting to say something. Please do.
No, I'm still reading.
I wonder, Charles, we've beat around this history of the 100-point system so many times, although you and I have been on those committees where we beat it around. The other two of you have not been, but I think we have come to the conclusion, and Charles, you more or less said it, that may have been a mistake to do it the way we did it because, well, it depended heavily on the mentors, and some mentors do a really good job, and some don't. And most of the people we're certifying today aren't getting around education. I guess what I'm coming around to is your comment about, I don't want to go back to the old KCWs and everything. Maybe we don't go completely back, but maybe we start limiting the opportunities for points so that to get to 100 points, they pretty much have to get a round education in our field. And it might mean that we have KCW type programs before the conference, which we already have, and we have some online options that will help in that way as well. We might as well go ahead and use the technology we have. And we have the super seminar, and we start putting all those things together, and that's about the only way you can get points. And to get 100 points, you pretty much have to take pretty much all the classes.
Yeah.
We might want to just redesign it so that it's a little bit more limited, so it forces people into needing to take at least 85 to 90% of what we think is key for people to get somehow.
I think you're right. I think that's where I'm thinking, Jess.
Would a new format, I've thought a little about this, but I haven't really written anything about it. But let me lay out just in really broad brush form. We have a course called Introduction to Conference Centers. That could be spiffed up, made current, and could be the mandatory introduction to conference centers that folks take when they come into the program. That could, at least a large part of it, could be offered online. What it would require is our faculty to all get to the point that we can do this online education. And there's a resource for that, but it would, let me do a broad brush idea of the program. If we had the Conference Center 101, so to speak, that's where you start. And then we had maybe, we've had up to 7 disciplines. If we had 6 or 7 courses that needed to be completed in order to be ready to go to capstone, if we tried to offer some of those online and some of them in around the table form at annual conferences, because we've discovered it's really hard to get people to come to ones in between. One of the ways we might consider dealing with that issue is 1 year offer super seminar, another year offer introduction to conference centers, and alternate those two so that we don't ask people to try to consider going to 2 programs. And then finally come to a focus with the capstone, with folks having done most of the disciplines and some of the other things that are on the list. One of the most popular and best done items that everyone who certified this year did was the center visit. Folks, with the exception of one, went to at least one other center and did the program, not just went there for the afternoon, but really were there for 2 days of overnight, spent time with the director and all the key staff people and so on, and then wrote a report. Those were really good. And I felt good about that. I don't want to toss that out if we can avoid it. Some of the other things of, take a course at the community college, that didn't work very well. One guy did a scout badge program for part of it. That didn't come off too well. We need to have that body of knowledge broken up in such a way that we can say, has everybody at least been exposed to it? Because we have no testing program, and I think it probably would be a mistake to have one in the environment we work in, but at least everybody was asked to participate in an interactive way with all the parts of the curriculum. Am I making sense, or am I making this too hard?
Making sense?
Yeah,
Makes
makes
sense to
sense.
me. Yeah.
Because we've certainly had some criticism that started back in the 2010 time of this course is just too hard, people won't take it, people won't do it, and so on. I find when people really get into it, they're into it. I mean, gosh, look at Betty. Betty's been an excellent example of what
Yeah.
we do so far as sharing our knowledge with a person who's relatively new to the field. And to tell you the truth, Betty was doing a big piece of the educational part of the capstone. She taught us a lot of things about the recovery of a Catholic conference center located in an area that serves pretty disenfranchised people. In other words, she runs a pretty solid conference center in one of the Dallas slums and does it really well. So, there are folks out there that have really learned a lot from us. And the things she's learned are those disciplines. The thing we've learned from her is rather than to abandon a center like that, we might could turn it into something else. But with your blessing, and please don't give it unless you feel that, I'm thinking we go to the meeting on the 12th with a kind of new format for the program and say to the rest of the Ed Committee, this is what we've worked out. Ann's going to carry the torch for spreading the word on the program and encouraging people to join it. Now, we need to talk about recertification before we finish tonight, but Rex then takes on the recertification task because everybody now who is certified ran out this year, runs out at the end of December. So we don't have any recertified people at this point. We're going to have to try to get all those certified folks to recertify. So the two big tasks that I see before us are a revision of the program so that we can deliver it multimedia, both as we're working now and some courses in person. And then the other thing is we got to figure out what we're going to do for recertification. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there also a part of that mandatory thing would be the capstone then?
I think so. That is the really best piece that we do. There's more that's a richer part of the program than anything else. Is when the students get together after basically 2 years of study and projects and start sharing that. That becomes a very progressive group around the table. That part's good. My concern this year was that some of the players in that were having trouble playing because they really didn't know all the things they needed to know.
Yeah.
I think you're right, and we've kind of fought this a little bit over the years because of the industry we're in. But I think a lot of the program, and I'm not saying a percentage, but I think a lot of the program we have to figure out how to do digitally. I think that'll help people become involved. It'll keep costs down for IACA as well as for the participants. And now that you can see each other like we are now, so Fran, sorry. You almost feel like you're in the room. We used to say being in the room is really powerful, but
Yeah.
we're all in the room together, more or less. So I think the more we can figure out how to do some of this online, I think the more we'll get participants to sign up and be a part of it. The more they feel like they have to spend a lot of money to fly somewhere and travel, that's when people start, and particularly, as you pointed out early in the meeting, Charles, in today's world, with finances and so forth, or maybe it was Rex that said it, going to 2 or 3 things a year just doesn't happen anymore. So I think what you said, Charles, is really good. I think we got to figure out a way to have a combination. maybe there's just one session before the annual conference rather than two, and maybe people, I don't know. I'm just throwing out things, but I just like the idea of doing things online. I think that makes a lot of sense.
What was the evaluation of the capstone this year? Because you did do sections of it online and then bringing them all together for 2 days at the end. How did that work?
I believe it was 9.2 on a scale of 10. Good feedback. Several folks said, I like it better when we can all get together, and I don't have any way to know whether it's the same people that said this, but several people said, this is great, but even having to come early is a financial burden that's hard for us.
Do we have any idea how many people actually are resourcing our scholarship fund? Sometimes I think that is the proverbial well-kept secret that, yeah, we say it's available, but are people really tapping into it? I don't know.
We only had one this year at conference. We had 1 or 2 at the super seminar.
If you look back at the IACA page, oh, and I lost it. Where'd it go? Let me go back to let me find it. The super seminar thing. It says it's available, but it doesn't say how to obtain it. It's kind of ambiguous, and maybe we need to be a little, let me go back to the homepage. Yeah, super seminar, register now. Like down at the bottom, there's just a little request for scholarship. It doesn't say who to request it for. It does say maximum amount is half of tuition. Maybe we need to spell it out. Maximum amount is however many dollars it would be. 310 or whatever. Contact, whether they contact Will or they're contacting Charles. There's nothing that says that. And maybe that needs to come up to the top instead of being at the very bottom in small print. I don't know. But if finances are going to be keeping people away, then we need to let people know we have money. And if I remember from conference, there's plenty of money in the scholarship fund.
Do you remember roughly how much, Rex?
I think it's probably over $5,000 right now.
Yeah.
I haven't done the numbers since conference.
At 300 and something bucks a pop, that would help quite a few people. My math's not that good, but that would help quite a few folks get to our programs.
When you put things on a web page or anywhere, you really got to make it quick and easy for people to find what they need to find. So your point is well taken, Ann. If you're going to say scholarships are available, there ought to be a button right there you can push to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And not have it at the bottom. But that's one thing that I can work on when I'm going to be, hounding people and tracking them down and talking to them about all this certification, is that it's available, and don't let the lack of finances stand in your way that we've got scholarship money. And we all know those one-on-one conversations can be looking at any website. So that's something I can definitely put in a course of a conversation.
But it seems like on the web page, it ought to be a clickable link right in the text.
That would jump right to a form that they can fill out to apply for a scholarship.
Yep.
I've got a form for that, so.
Yeah, and 2 things that hit my mind with that, and thank you for those. I can get the how to register piece. I can get Will working on that tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
Jess, you may be the best one of us. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. that you would probably be the best. Would you be willing to work with Will? Because I had a note from him today. You know, we sent out that super seminar mailer to 600 and something people that are on our list now, but only a few folks got it in its full form. If you opened it on your desktop and you had the right program, you got it. If you tried opening it on your iPhone or your iPad or several other devices, it came out all garbled. So
Yeah, it came out garbled. I looked at that today.
And Will is willing to work on that. His take on it is that Betty doesn't know how to fix it either. We've got somebody that we're paying to do that, but Will tried to do it on his own this time. Could you, Jess, take on talking to Will and help him figure out how to work that part of the system?
Yeah, I may after this meeting just jump in and look at how he prepared it, what the original looks like on Wild Apricot and see, because I've been sending them out regularly for the coffee breaks, and I don't think I've been having that trouble. People haven't reported it that way anyway. It could be that he did a copy and paste from another document, and therefore the formatting wasn't right or something, but I'll check that.
If you take that on, you know more about Wild Apricot than any of the rest of us, I'm pretty sure. Unless you're really up to speed on that, Rex. Is that something you understand?
I haven't done a whole lot with Wild Apricot. I've tried to stay away from it.
You're smart.
I've been working
it's pretty
QuickBooks, some other stuff.
It's pretty easy to work with. Even the web page side of it's pretty easy. I mean, that stuff you were showing tonight, Charles, I had set up years ago. That hasn't changed in many years. But anyway, yeah, I'll take a look at that, and I'll talk to Will.
Well, could you also take a look at the whole website and talk to Will? Because there are still places where people are directed to reach Nicole. And there are places where it appears there are clickable links, but you click on them and they don't go anywhere.
Are we still gonna, and we still have, I noticed when you had it up, post office box out in Seattle too. Do we need to change that now too?
Absolutely. The whole thing needs to be reworked.
Okay.
And Will is willing to do that at this point, and he has paid hours to do it. His take on it, to be very candid, among this little group, is there's a leftover from Nicole where she felt that she needed to be very careful not to step on anybody's toes. And I kept saying, Nicole, just let them get their toes out of the way. We need to get, but she was always unwilling to do that. And I see a little of that going on now with Will. And I would hope that he would become, you don't have to be mean to be aggressive. I would hope he would become positively aggressive to really get that, so that when somebody looks at it, they don't see an organization that is woefully out of date, but they see some positive, upbeat things. Some of those articles, for example, on the front page, those are so old and they weren't very good when they started. So we really need some help there, Jess, if you can help him do it. And I hope you just take it on and do it. There's nobody going to criticize our work. The board is going to cheer whatever we do. The last I heard from the board was we got plenty to do besides education. Education is our most important thing. The board's saying that. Ruben's saying that. But we've got to act on it rather than tiptoe around it.
Question for me then is, what's Betty's role is with communication. I know she was taking on her load on the website, but
I think Betty, when she gets a request, she just forwards it to the person we're paying to make updates on the website. And
okay.
So I think we have a choice when it comes to making the changes you're talking about on the website, Charles, and actually Betty ought to be in on that conversation so we don't step on our toes.
Yeah.
we have a choice of taking that whole website, evaluating it, deciding what needs to be changed and updated, and then sending all that to this guy we're paying and let him do it because he can do it fast and easy and he knows what he's doing. And so Will could pull all that together, send him a long email, make this change on this page, this change on this page, this change, and then let that guy do it. But that guy is not being paid to do the email. That's a whole separate part of what.
That's right.
And the emails are what we got to work out with Will. But I agree with you. We got to do something with the website, and Will and I will communicate with that. But I think the best bet there is let's let the guy who's the expert on it do it for us. But we got to tell him he's not going to do anything unless we tell him what to do.
Yep, absolutely.
And Carla recruited him a long time ago, and he seems to do a really good job. So
Yeah, that's Drew.
Drew, yeah, I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that if you, Jess, would go through and mark up the web page before or during the conversation that you have with Will and identify all those things that are somewhat out of date, some of them are woefully out of date, that then he could start working with the web page guy. Betty's communication, I'm not sure exactly what her process is. Does anybody know that?
I know that whenever I wanted to do something on the web page, I got in the habit of writing to Carla because Carla handled it for quite a while. And one time I got a nice email back from Carla saying, Betty's now communications, so write to her.
Yeah.
I haven't had to do much since then, so I only had to write to Betty once or twice, but I think Betty's pretty much doing the same thing. Asking Drew to happen.
Yeah, and I hope we can pull Carla back into this. Carla and I have had several conversations. The truth of the matter is we've kind of kept each other propped up as we've gone through some not terribly productive times. And Carla, in my opinion, is a very capable director, a sharp member of the organization. She's gotten, as I understand it, pulled into a lot of the annual conference things that she wanted out of. It was my plan, and still is if I can make it work eventually, although she's kind of negative on this right now, and we're recording this, so Carla, I don't think I'm sharing any secrets here, but Carla was going to take over as chair of the committee, and I was just going to move back to the dean role, which I'd like a lot. But right now, somebody's got to grab the flag and run up the hill. And if I can do that, and Carla can help us in the ways that she can with webpage and so on, then eventually maybe we can make that transition in leadership. Make sense?
Yes.
We've got to look at, and my clock says we've got about 9 minutes to do it. We got to look at least pass over the recertification question. And so let me push us on to that by saying that we have 2 or 3 things that we have decided here. One is to work backward with that and with the notes that I've made. And Will be back with us and will be keeping record next time we meet. He was just not able to meet tonight. Jess is going to take on the things he just said about the web page, going over the web page and getting it up to date, and helping Will learn to navigate our system as to whom he takes things when he needs the web page. That checks okay, Rex? Jess?
Yep.
Okay. And then for Ann, the next steps really are not what we've talked about, but I'm sure you're on top of it, Ann, is the development of some sort of systematic way to be reaching not only our membership, but also to be working with Jamie to be figuring out how we get new members. The reaching the membership, we've got a pretty good list of that. Our number of actual members is getting pretty thin. We have about 80-something members, and 30-something of those are life members. So it's not a large group, but we need helping Jamie pull in new members, and we've got to be working to pull them into the program. I think we all agree on that, so we don't run out of time. Let me hit the screen share again, and let's talk for a minute about recertification. You should now have recertification in front of you. Did that come up?
No.
Not yet.
Should be up any minute.
No, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay.
There it is.
At the moment, we're kind of okay with this, although it probably could be rewritten a bit. I'm getting some real resistance, and I have not been really sympathetic with it. Chuck Craning and I have a very candid relationship, and we can share things and then move on. Chuck's take on it has been, well, I'm not going to take enough time to go read a book and write a report. I did my certification, and I'll recertify every 5 years, whatever I got to do, but I'm not going to do this every year. And my take on it is to get 30 points is really easy, and everybody ought to be doing something for continuing education. So the task is huge, Rex, in terms of getting to the folks that need to recertify. The points option is really, there's a lot of stuff you can do there to get points, and all of it is good continuing education things. And then you even have a forum here on how to do that. But if they did a super seminar, that would do it for a year. The conference, you could participate in that for the 15 points. You can read those. I don't need to read them to you. But I don't think this is hard. I think it's just somehow convincing folks that there's something valid there. And again, speaking candidly, I talked this over with Ruben, and he said, well, what are you going to do? I'm not going to go in their office and rip their certificate off the wall. No, I'm not either. But somehow we need to convince folks that there's some value in continuing ed, and that is reflected by being currently certified. If that's a bad idea, then maybe we need to look at the old program. We used to get 15, 18 people to the recertification seminar, and maybe we need to look at the possibility of doing that, or again, some kind of online thing. I can start working with faculty immediately about trying to get folks ready to teach online. Some of the online things that we've done have been good, and some have been really thin. If folks don't prepare for it and prepare in a different way, then that doesn't come across. Now, there's good news there that I want to share before we run out of time. Wynn Wyman and Jack Shitama are talking about using a program that I don't know enough about to evaluate, but there's a program called Blackboard that the Methodist Church owns, and apparently we can get a little piece of it for not a great deal of cost, and use that for teaching. What it requires is training our teachers to use it. I don't totally understand what the measurement criteria is, but the folks with Blackboard don't want us using it unless we know how, because it will be sort of like the Zoom things that I've set up, marginally effective at best. So that's coming along, but we got to get that worked on, and that's one that maybe would be best placed with the recertification plan to begin with. Does that make sense, Rex?
I think so. I guess what's running through my head, Charles, is I wonder if we've taken this recertification and dumbed it down, making a major recertification thing every 5 years, but then do annual educational things, just so that people keep their feet in the water and are learning new things every year, but put the focus on recertification every 5 years. I don't know. It's just off the top of my head.
Well, would you scratch your head between now and the 12th? And
I'm going to try.
have something to present to the full committee on at least a pro forma plan for recertification?
I think what I'd like to do is let me ponder it a little bit, then I'll call you and we can talk.
Perfect. I'd love to do that.
Okay.
Well, you can hear by the striking of the clock. That one strikes 1 minute before the hour. So here we are. We're out of time. Thank you. I am really committed to not make these meetings last longer than I promise you. So I'm going to bail out. But I hope that we can all think about this. Please send ideas to me. Maybe this little group needs to get together again before the 12th. If so, I can do that. Quite honestly, at this point in my life, I'm really taking a breather. My work down in Florida, that last turnaround I did, really took the starch out of this old guy. And I'm just now beginning to kind of get back in the game and feel like I want to do something. I'm willing to put some work in it. And if you are, then we probably can turn it around. If you want to do that, and you've said you do, thank you so much. Let's give it a try, because what we've done in the past is we have trained, I don't know how many conference center directors, a lot more than we still have as members, but there have been any number of people that have come through our program that have really had good results from their experience. So I hope we can continue to do that. Let's take one more minute. Anything else for the good of the order here?
Charles, I'm going to send you the link to this recording so you can pass it on to Carla when you want to.
Okay, very good. And I'm going to flip through it and make notes on what we decided, because I'm not real good at keeping my head in the meeting and also taking notes. Will's going to do that in the future, but I'll pick that up. I'll probably do it tomorrow or the next day to just kind of make a rough sketch of what we talked about today, and I'll send that to all of you.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you all so
Thank you
much.
for your leadership, Carl.